All right, the top 5 visitors visiting for the Blue Goal game and the Blue Goal weekend. So we've got some names to throw out there. I feel like it's the David Letterman show all of a sudden. So we've got the top 5 list, so fire away.
Okay, so I want to be clear in that this is not like the 5 highest ranked guys.
Okay.
There are other guys that, as we record, Darren, before we started recording, I was like, dude, this has been a crazy busy day for me because it's, for me, reporting on visits, like confirming these visits, who's visiting, who's not. So there's also a few other guys. I was like, man, I want to put them on here, but I haven't confirmed it just yet. So get all the latest at blueandgold.com. We'll be reporting on this all day Wednesday, all day Thursday. So, but here's my 5 as of right now. It's definitely like 5 names to know at the very least. I'm putting CJ Carr on this list, Notre Dame's quarterback commit in the 2024 class. And I do think we could put the how stalled his commitment to bed. He's locked in. We've done multiple interviews with him recently. I got to talk to him, and then one of my colleagues interviewed him down at a tournament, a 7-on-7 tournament just the past weekend for me to talk about Carr's recent visit. I mean, he's 100% with the Irish. Everything looks really good there. But the reason I'm putting on this list is because he's the face of the class. He's the one recruiting a lot of these guys, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It's always good to have your quarterback committed. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, all of the 2024 commits, maybe there's 1 or 2 not, but most of them at the least are visiting for the spring game weekend. So you're building the camaraderie in the class. You're getting Carr back on campus to recruit some of these other guys. That definitely makes him a key visitor for the Irish this weekend. Number 2, and this is in no specific order, but this would be Isaiah Canyon from Warner Robins. Here's the interesting thing, Darren. When Notre Dame offered him, I think he had just a few offers: Georgia Tech, Indiana, lower level schools, and then also unranked. I don't think any of these websites had him ranked either. And now, for folks watching on YouTube, you can see the rankings. On3 updated their rankings Monday. Number 94 overall player, number 15 receiver. So Notre Dame was on him before he started getting these 4-star rankings. And I mean, he's just a big time talent. So this is one of those guys when Notre Dame offers, it's like, why are we offering a 0-star? Yeah, now he's looking like he's trending towards being a top 100 overall player. So that's just how these things can go. So from Warner Robins, Georgia, the same hometown as Notre Dame wide receivers coach Chancey Stuckey. That obviously is an interesting factor here. And I like where Notre Dame's at here. He visited in early March, and him getting back just several weeks later, I think bodes well for the Fighting Irish. Now, do some of these other SEC schools jump into the mix? Like he doesn't have an in-state offer from Georgia. What happens with the Bulldogs? Definitely keep an eye on Isaiah Canyon.
And for our radio audience, he's a wide receiver.
Wide receiver, yes. Yep. Played a lot of quarterback as a junior. I think is one thing that kind of made his recruitment slow at the start because not a ton of schools had seen him at receiver. But when you do see him at that position, he's big time. This one's not 100% confirmed, but got it under good reasoning that Benedict Uma. He's from Toronto, but currently attends school at Avon Old Farms in Connecticut. A big-time pass rusher in the 2024 class, ranked as the number 53 overall player, number 9 defensive lineman per the 2024 On3 industry ranking. Yeah, this is someone who Notre Dame's been working on for a while to get on campus, and it's definitely big news. As skilled as he is, I mean, highly ranked, solid offer list. Yeah, definitely good for the Irish to get this guy on campus. Number 4, Bryce Young from Charlotte Christian. Of course, the son of Bryant Young. I mean, how many visits has this guy taken to Notre Dame? 3 already. Man, has it only been 3? Pretty well spaced out. Last June, October for the Stanford game. Got back in January, back for the spring game. So pretty much all these big visit weekends for Notre Dame. Young's been on campus. So 4-star edge rusher in the 2024 class. Yeah, I mean, I've liked Notre Dame here for a long time. But as he's blown up, I think his recruitment's got a little bit more complicated. I mean, let's see all these schools that have offered: Michigan, Penn State, USC, Tennessee, Miami, Stanford. I mean, he's got his fair, and Notre Dame was his first or second, I believe. That was one of those offers just like, they just throwing out a goodwill offer. Like, is this even a guy who they're going to target? Oh, yeah, Bryce Young is a huge priority for Notre Dame. And the Irish are looking to take a pretty big defensive line class. They have Owen Way full committed, but they've got to start landing some guys. They're in the mix with a handful. Got to start closing on some of these. And Bryce Young is definitely someone who the staff badly wants. And then last but not least, kind of the same with the safety position, Darren. No commits at safety, unless I'm forgetting. No, 2 corners, no safety commits. And they're looking to take a few safeties, at least 2 or 3 in this class. And they have a big one on campus this weekend in Davis Andrews, Utah, Stanford, Colorado, UCLA, some of the schools on his offer list. This is ranked a 3-star, but, this 6'2", 190-pound safety from American Fork, Utah, someone who you could also project to pay Rover down the line is someone who Notre Dame really wants. So got to start landing some of these safeties. Kennedy Urlacher, another who was on campus last weekend. So Urlacher, Andrews, just a couple of the names to keep an eye on. So those are my 5, kind of top names to keep an eye on this weekend, Darren.
Mike, you mentioned it's to the point where they need to start closing some of these guys. Some of the changes on the coaching staff, does that slow down the process, or is there really no rhyme or reason in the cycle why it's happening that way?
Well, on the defensive line and at safety, there's been no changes. So, yeah, the defensive side of the ball has been intact. So, no, I mean, I don't think Notre Dame's, changes on the offensive side of the ball, it really hasn't impacted recruiting much. And that speaks to the job that Freeman's done, being involved with every offensive commit, or excuse me, target. Chad Bowden, that's the same. And then, Jared Parker, sliding from tight ends to offensive coordinator. Just there's the continuity there. So, yeah, with Reese out, I mean, even going back to Brian Kelly, you just didn't see much negative impact with these coaching changes at all.
Okay. So in general, this weekend, is this kind of an Irish Palooza big weekend? Is it kind of a quiet recruiting weekend? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest of the year. I think the junior day, mid-January, the March 25th weekend, this one, and then you'll have a few of those big visit weekends in the fall. June, there'll be a huge official visit weekends, and then I'm sure December there'll be another kind of recruiting weekend. I mean, those are the ones that are the biggest, and the spring game will definitely be up there. There's the guys I mentioned here. Again, go to blueandgold.com. We'll have a handful of other visits to report, just kind of working on those, and didn't want to talk about them in this show just in case they didn't end up coming to fruition. And who knows, maybe a couple of those guys end up canceling their visits last minute. That always happens, but it's a big one, Darren. You're going to look back on this weekend and maybe if you're a recruiting junkie like me and do that kind of thing, like, oh, who committed from the Blue Gold game weekend in 2023? I do think you'll be able to go back and look at it and be like, all right, there's a handful of guys who did visit for this weekend who ended up committing to the Irish. Also, interesting to note as a side note, a lot of the 2023 signees are going to be there. I think it's a little bit more than half of the guys who didn't enroll early are going to be in South Bend this weekend. So it's always good to see those guys back up to Notre Dame too. So yeah, I mean, every spring game weekend that I've covered for Notre Dame, which I don't think it's been that many since there's those COVID years, but they're always big for the Fighting Irish, Darren. This is going to be a crucial weekend for Notre Dame.